Hi, I'm Art,
Hi, I'm Alice.
and today we're on the run to the Aran Islands.
A part of Ireland, it's a remote area. You have to take a boat and get up very early in the morning, which everyone knows it's not something I like to do. And we're going to go by the Cliffs of Moher, which were really interesting, but the Aran Islands, wait until you see these.
They, in fact, I was looking for a sign, and there it was: the Cliffs of Moher and Aran Islands cruise. And then we cut on at the port of Galway, which fortunately for us was just about a 5-minute walk from the hotel, the Victorian Inn, and you get on board and away we go. Now, really little is known about the first inhabitants out there at the Aran Islands, but it was originally thought that they went out there as a safe refuge. They got in these rather rickety old boats and managed to find their way out there. It is a very harsh, as you'll see, a very harsh existence to live out there on the Aran Islands. And also the one thing that is fairly stark about the small community is the fact that you're dealing with a part of Ireland that has a declining population. From 1986, I think there was 1,339 people actually in 1986, and then 2016 that had dropped down to 1,226. A lot of the younger people, they don't really have, there's not a lot of future. The land is held by families that have held it really for centuries, and so the only way for people to prosper or to move up in life really is to move on.
Sure, there's no place for the young people to do, or anything to do for that matter. There is one doctor on the island. It's that elderly lady, and if there's a serious accident or anything, of course everything has to be by helicopter flown over to Galway.
Now these are the islands themselves. There's actually 3 islands, and I was out there doing all the pictures, and Alice was
Once again, I can sleep anywhere, even setting up.
And I think, did you have some coffee or something that morning?
Yeah, I did, but it didn't make any difference to me.
Now, Aran Off-Road Experience was the company that we hired to take us off on this trip. I had, in my previous visit to the Aran Islands, I used the horse and buggy. In any event, part of the problem is that the horse and buggy or the regular tours, they are really jammed up. There's a lot of them out there. So the Aran Island Off-Road Experience, as you'll see here in just a moment, really takes you off-road. That's one of the roads.
And I highly recommend this, honey, because this gentleman, he owned part of the properties. His father, again, it was the centuries handed down, his father owned a lot of this property where those jam-packed tour buses could not go.
Now, there are a few animals, but not a whole lot, really. Mm-mm. As a horse, there's obviously a large horned a sheep of some sort, a few cattle, and some sheep. And again, the desolation and the starkness of the islands are apparent just from everywhere you look. Those stone fences, the stone, of course, came from the land where you now see a little bit of grass. They cut the stone out so that they could put and get some seaweed and make the soil, the topsoil, to be able to have some pasture land.
Any grass or anything at all, you're right. It would not sustain very many cattle or anything for that matter. There was vines, of course, growing, and there were blackberries, and you had a chance to see some of that. And bumblebees. I asked him to take this picture.
Right. There's the raspberry bushes.
Well, actually, those are blackberry baby, bushes, but they're not ready yet.
And, of course, again, just row after row after row of stone fence. There's Alice, who was studying something very intently with her phone.
Once again, this is the off-road vehicle we were in. I want to suggest anybody, though, if you're going to the Aran Islands, please look into this particular one.
Those are the other people who are with us. That's a picture of Patrick standing on the Land Rover with, of course, Alice there in the foreground. He was absolutely just a wonderful guy. Gave us all kinds of background information about everything that was on the island, the history of the island, how they did a lot of those different things. And this was one of the areas that just shows you the roughness and the ruggedness. Those rocks are sharp and hard and can hurt. I mean, if you fall on these rocks, you're in deep trouble.
Right. Now, remember, they had to bust all these things up to make those fences. You sent me over and said, touch that, honey. And it was literally like a knife, very sharp. Just the terrain out there is so desolate.
You'll see here that, again, you go from the rocks that we just looked at to big areas of flat rock. And you can see here where over the years or over the centuries, they've taken those flat rocks and they've cut the rock out, and they have made these stone walls that they use to contain their livestock, of which they don't have many.
No.
And then occasionally something just as strange as some kind of succulent there. Now here is his name again?
Patrick.
Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
And Patrick is taking us out across their land, the family land, out to a place called the Wormhole. And the interesting thing about it, of course, is that you're walking across his land. There's a lot of people who also were making the trip, but they were actually kind of trespassers, or they were taking other routes to get them to the same place that we were going with this man who has incredible knowledge of everything that goes on.
This is amazing. It's so barren.
This is at the Wormhole. I look at this island and say, why did anybody want to live there? They had to be seeking refuge.
And then if you're real adventurous,
But this wormhole, a very interesting story. Patrick's going to tell us about it, and then I'll add a little to it. It was Red Bull was doing a commercial about endurance, and you'll hear Patrick tell a little bit more. By the way, the wormhole looks like someone took a saw and sawed that out. That is all naturally formed.
Cold turkey on the unofficial dive.
wow.
And let me tell you, like one lady, my brother and I, because this is my dad's land, my brother and I were up here, and we got a bit of work with Red Bull at the time. I'll be honest with you guys, it wasn't good work that we were interested in. Girls. Forgive me on that, but that didn't really pan out. But anyway, so we were up here, and we were kind of having a huge security event up here. And one lady in 2017, she jumped there, and let me just give you two facts, okay? You're jumping at a speed of about, it would take 55 miles per hour. Right? It would take 70 miles per hour. You've got 13.5 second free fall time. Okay? So, unless, I don't know, the first thing was swimming, I can't swim here, but unless you see it, unless they go into vertically, completely vertical, you're in trouble, and this lady went in a bit, and you could even feel it. You didn't feel it. You know, you feel that kind of, you're in trouble. And they initiated the rescue response, the rescue on the road, they're all here. And
there, of course, he's telling the story, which was a rather desperate time for several people.
It was a tragic accident, and at that time, then his father, who had given permission, of course, they were paying him Red Bull, decided no more, and he will not do it again. But you can look that up. Google it. It is Red Bull. It was an endurance at the Wormhole in Ireland.
And there's, of course, Alice listening intently.
Intently, yes. He was so interesting. He really was.
She was aghast, right? But again, you can see the starkness of the land right there at the water's edge. It is just a harsh environment, and it's a place that few things grow. And if it wasn't for the, say, give us a big wave, Alice, if it wasn't for the tourism that surges on the islands during the summer months, there would be no commerce there at all.
And as it was, honey, there was hardly any commercial type buildings. Maybe there were like two little restaurants, like a tiny little general store, very, very limited. But I would understand why. I'm like the young people. I would want to be out that far away from civilization. However, the people that are there are very proud to be there, and they don't sell their properties. They just won't sell.
That's down near the edge of the water, and you can see the waves' effects upon the limestone. It makes just some very unusual patterns. And I think that it really is also important that to realize that the hustle and bustle in some cases of the big cities of Ireland, and if you are looking to truly have a unique experience that is really just a matter of 30 minutes, a 30-minute boat ride away, the Aran Islands, it is something that you will never forget. And if you go with one of the tour guides that is a local, you'll learn a lot about this very unique part of the world and how these people have endured some of the hardships in order to live there.
I should mention that Aran Islands are famous, though, for their woven wools. You'll see Aran Island sweaters and scarves and so forth. So that was one of their big incomes, I guess, was just to take the wool, because sheep do not require a lot of grassland, which is good because this grass that you see literally is no more than 4 inches. You can literally pick the soil up, and there's slate.
It was a wonderful day at the Aran Islands. Now we moved down to the Cliffs of Moher, which was actually a substantial boat ride from the Aran Islands. But this is one of those places that a lot of people will visit. They'll take either one or two approaches. You can drive down, and getting to the Cliffs of Moher by car is difficult. And then actually going out to the top of the cliffs, you don't get the same visual you do from the water. There are ferries right there at the cliffs, but in this case, they just kind of bundled the Aran Islands tour with the Cliffs of Moher, most of which you'll see here. I'm just shooting stills because the one side of the boat where you could actually get any video was very crowded and hard to do.
You know what I just thought of? You had that picture of me sleeping. And as I recall, as we were heading back to Galway, somebody else laid their head down and went to sleep.
I don't know that I remembered that, but it was a great trip to the Aran Islands. And tomorrow we're going to be moving on to Ashford Castle, and it's going to be our first chance on the road. So until then, I'm Art.
I'm Alice.
And we're
On the run.